good start to the show. So hi everyone, my name is Vibha Kagzi, and I'm going to be your host today on Reach Ivy's 35th episode, believe it or not, of House of Experts. Today is a super special guest, someone who I have a very personal connection with. For many, many years, I've seen Puneet's journey. I've literally seen Puneet grow from this young boy who moved to Bombay to this super suave entrepreneur. What's most amazing about Puneet is that childlike boy is still very much alive in him. If you get the opportunity to meet him, you will know, and I'm sure in the next 60 minutes you will see his innocence, his desire to like excel at everything, his curiosity, all those skills we forget sometimes as adults, but Puneet somehow managed to keep them intact. Little bit about Puneet. So Puneet is originally is from Calcutta. He studied at the London School of Economics. Ended up doing some courses at Harvard Business School, and started, has been through many ventures, which I will let him talk about himself. Most recently, he is co-founder at Blue Smart, which is an amazing company. And if you guys aren't following Blue Smart on Instagram already, please do. Also, please do Google Blue Smart and read about all the fantastic work Puneet and his team are up to. Blue Smart is India's only electric vehicle taxi fleet. Has had an investment by, believe it or not, Deepika Padukone herself. And of course, Puneet's story has been picked up by the media. He's been featured on CNBC TV 18 and has been on the BBC as well. Puneet, super excited to have you here and very eager to hear your story in your own words. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Vibha. Thank you so much for this. Thank you.
All right. So let's get started, guys. Feel free to send out questions on the chat below, and I will discreetly pick up some of those questions and throw them into this conversation. So Puneet, as you know, at Reach Ivy, we run an education and careers advisory, right? And I always sort of believe like what we are today in this Freudian theory stems from who we were as children. So first, can you flash back into like your childhood? Do you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Where does this whole entrepreneurial zeal stem from? What was your early childhood like?
So actually, the earlier childhood was very relaxing, and there was no stress to become an entrepreneur for sure. So I grew up in a joint family and with all my cousins, and it was a very very good childhood. But yes, I spent a lot of time with my father, who was running his industry. He was into manufacturing. And obviously, as Marwari children are taught at a very young age, so obviously we had to go to office and to our factories. So we did learn a bit of entrepreneurship from my
So
parents.
how early did you start? Like, at what age did you go to the office or the factory?
Yeah, so that was around about 10th standard, about 9 to 10th standard. My grandfather actually was the one who asked me to probably sit with him in the evenings and used to speak about how probably you should start up on your own. And that's what he did. And his son did. That's my father. So obviously that's, learnings from your elders and, but there was no stress about that you need to start something, but it was in a very nice manner to learn from your elders.
Okay, so no pressure, but while the rest of us were hanging out
Yes.
at the movies, you were hanging out at the office and absorbing whatever you could from your father and your grandfather. Okay, so pretty early start. At the age of 15, you sort of start getting your hands dirty with business. What happens next? So you guys moved to Bombay. I'm aware of that. How did the London School of Economics happen? And why did you decide to go abroad to study?
So my dad has always been in Bombay since 81. And so I was completing my schooling in Calcutta. And then he wanted me to come to Bombay, which was great and great for me. That shaped my career. So very grateful to him for that. Came to Bombay, went to Sydenham for my undergrad and then applied to a few colleges. Kind of did well in economics. So always had a dream to go to LSE. That was one of my, dreams to go and study at LSE. Or had I not got into it, maybe then Delhi School of Economics. So LSE happened. So had said bye to DSC and then also did another course at Aston for my international business since I finished my program in 9 months. Also then did a small stint at Airbus in Toulouse and then came back to India to start my first venture in 2007.
Okay, so coming from this family of entrepreneurs where and I'm Marwari too, so I can completely relate. We learned business on the dining table. Still, we both decided to go get these degrees from abroad. So in your experience, how did that help? And was it helpful, firstly? Like, did you think it added any value? Getting
Oh
these
yes,
degrees,
absolutely.
etc.
So Yeah, absolutely. So I think the experience that I got or the flavor that I got from that education that I had was the communication that you do in a different environment that you probably are. Also, the global flavor that comes in when you speak to people from different countries and they all pull in together and bring resources because the economic conditions of every country is very different, right? So when you debate on that, what works maybe in India may not work in the US, and what works in US may not work in India, and they're different, different thought processes there. So that was something that was great to learn and something that I take back from my courses. Yeah.
Okay, so you like the sort of the global diversity it brought you,
Yes.
the
Yes.
fact that it made you think differently, because of course in India we all face this sort of group think where we all think a certain way because of the
Correct.
schooling system here, etc. Okay, so LSE happened, then you went to Toulouse, very exciting experience there. What happened then? So what made you come back to India and explore entrepreneurship here, and why not explore the work scene abroad? So what was that
So,
decision-making
so it was
process?
a clear understanding with my father, before I was leaving that I will come back and obviously help him out in what he does. So he was manufacturing, these polypropylene mats for the last 20 years. We were probably market leaders in what we were doing. And also another field was financing in the NBFC space. So that was very clear from his side. And I probably thought that I will do the same. But probably when I came back, I didn't decide to pursue my family business and start my own. So I
Okay.
probably it was a great reason for us to come back. I think India was also at that time really growing. It was a good opportunity and time for also to come back and start something new. We were seeing great economic growth and a lot of new ventures were being started at that time. So it was a good decision when I look back, was to come back and start your own venture.
Okay, so you had this promise with your dad. You fulfilled that
Yes,
promise, but
yes,
somewhat partially you didn't quite join him, but you did come back and
yes,
decided to sort of start up on your own. Okay,
correct.
so I since I work with so many young people, and many of them like you are aspiring entrepreneurs. A lot of them are at this cusp of like, should I work somewhere or should I, just jump into this? You jumped right into it, right? So what made you do that? What made you
I
feel
think
like you were
I think
ready?
I got really lucky. Had I applied anywhere, they wouldn't have hired me. So, so I think that was really good that I started my own business. I think I would have not been hired if I would have applied. So I've not worked for anyone till now. Maybe I don't know if I'll do that in the future, but yeah. So I had a bunch of ideas, and while doing my dissertation overseas, I probably wrote a paper on clean tech and all about how renewable energy will play a very important role in transition of the new India, and the new India needs clean tech, needs solar power. So that kind of was exciting. When I came back, obviously met a few people in the industry, understood that yes, there is some kind of need and demand, and I can probably play a part. So that's how it all started, and that's how my first venture started. Yeah,
Okay, great. So let's jump into your first venture, because this whole the theme still is consistent, right?
yeah.
You like the whole renewable energy space, you're like this clean tech person, and then within that sector broadly, you're trying different things. So let's first talk about your first venture. Tell us
So
about
my
the
first,
idea and
yeah.
what made you jump into that.
Yeah, so the first venture was for manufacturing solar photovoltaic panels. So we got the technology tie-up from Spire Corporation from Boston. That probably took a year for us to do so. They were a NASDAQ listed company. We were really starting out. We had no background. I'm not an engineer. I've been a commerce graduate. So for me to probably transition, do a tech business was also a little different. But yes, so we ended up setting a manufacturing facility in 2008, which we ran until 2012. The markets were great. We probably were the second largest solar panel manufacturing company at that time in that era. And
So
whatever we
this
were
is the era
manufacturing,
when the government was giving a lot of SOPs, right, for people to set up
the European
manufacturing
government.
facilities.
So that was the European government. The Indian government were allowing you to set up manufacturing facilities, but everything that we manufactured, we sold it to Europe. We didn't
I
sell
see.
anything in India. We exported, bulk about 100 million worth euros of solar panels between 8 and 12, and then 12 we exited manufacturing because there was a global crash in the manufacturing space. Some big companies which were worth 8 or 10 billion were sold for a paltry sum of $35 million. And
Oh,
so
wow.
that was a kind of global loss that occurred since Europe went into a financial problem in 2011. So even my first venture, which kind of did extremely well for 4 years, in 2012, I had to shut down my first venture. Although I had plans to go back into manufacturing solar cells and solar wafers, go backward integration, but probably that was limited to those 4 years. Yeah.
Okay, wow. So very early on, you faced like your first failure, so to speak.
Yes.
4 years,
Yes.
and I remember attending
In
your,
fact,
presentation.
at the launch, I remember we were launching and we were doing an investors gala, investors meet where we invited who's who of Bombay, and you were there on the front row. And I think the
Yes.
only person who was asking me questions were you, and everybody else was just listening. But I think the max question I got was from you. But yeah,
And you're going to have to deal with that for then another 50 minutes or so.
I'm
Actually, you
reminded
probably,
that after 13 years, it's been 13 years to that day, and
well,
but yeah.
I think I'm going to play that role in your life for the next 30 years. So be ready for lots of questions coming up. So very early on, right? You faced failure very early on, which a lot of young people, especially today, they don't know how to deal with it. So how did you deal with it? Obviously, it must not have been easy because I remember the enthusiasm and the amount of research and expertise you had built. I don't think anyone could have contested you on that panel in your knowledge of the manufacturing of those panels, etc. And then the business goes kaput. So how did you deal with it?
I think failures are great teachers, right? So, I mean, there's only two things you can do, either sulk or probably stay put there, or you probably learn, okay, that was a great learning experience, and then you move on. So, I think I chose the latter, and to the great learning experience, good that happened at a very early stage, and I'm thankful to that. And it's not us, a lot of people also suffered. So, the takeaway was that, you have to be very, very clear about manufacturing always has been very challenging, and obviously it's very policy driven, and probably can, there could be ups and downs, so yeah, so good lesson learned. But if I were to go back, I will not go back in manufacturing space, or probably do other stuff which I did post that. I then diversified, got into infrastructure in a very large way. We were very clear that solar is the way forward. So despite one shutdown, God opened another door for us. We were awarded the largest capacity by Government of Gujarat in 2010. Government of Gujarat opened their solar policy, and we were awarded a 40 megawatt license. At that time, that was huge. Solar was about 18 crores a megawatt then. Today is about 2 crores a megawatt. So
Wow.
we set up India's first 20 megawatt solar power plant in 2012 under the Government of Gujarat policy, and which was one of its kind in Asia at that time. So yeah, so God shut one door, opened another.
Open
We were
another.
back to business, and we were doing well. And so that was the project that got me back on my foot, and I ran that for 3 years and sold that venture to a Saudi entity called Zamil for enterprise value of $68 million, and made a good exit in 2014 for my second venture.
Okay, so you tasted early failure, but you also tasted
Yes,
relatively early success, right? Because that's
yes.
a pretty good turnaround. 3 years, if you were able to spin and sell out at that value, that's
Yes.
fabulous.
And
Okay, tell
ideally,
me.
that was the business about. I mean, the solar power plants last for 25 years, but the hold on period is 2 or 3 years. So you build the
Okay,
asset, you own the asset, and you sell it off.
okay, fine, all right. So tell me, what are from this early failure and this early success, if you had to sort of condense the learnings that you then were able to take and apply to your next venture, for someone who's just like, okay, you've been through this whole journey, tell me what you took away. So in true Harvard style, like what were your kind of key takeaways from your failure
I
and
think
success?
team is very important. So at early stage, I was thinking when I was probably, I'm 36 now, I was 24 when I started my first venture, 26, 27, 28 when my first venture tanked, and 28 when I started my second. So the key learning that I got is that have a super solid team, have a good co-founder and extended team. I was the CEO, chairperson, co-founder, founder, everything of those two companies, and probably it was a loner, up there doing all by myself. The last two ventures that I did post that, I had two good co-founders. The one that I'm doing now, I have the best team in the world right now with us. I think so. The key takeaway was share your load and share your experience. You are good in few things, not every.
Okay.
So not everything. You have a certain skill set. Use your skill set to the fullest, but bring on board other people which have other set of skills which you don't have.
Okay, so that's actually supreme takeaway because a
Yeah.
lot of entrepreneurs, and because typically entrepreneurs are so smart and they have a certain way of functioning, they just assume that they can actually sort of, wear
Yes.
10 heads like Ravana, and they don't realize that that also leads to destruction, right, in so
Correct.
many
Absolutely
ways.
right. Correct.
Okay, so any other learning that you'd want to talk about? So one is the team that you realized very early on, and anything else you feel like a takeaway?
I mean, so that was the only big learning I have. Obviously, you have to give your heart and soul and
Hmm.
to every project or everything that you do, and you can't probably step back and say, I'll keep my role limited. So the biggest learning I had was from the team side because some things are unprecedented. I mean, nobody planned for COVID, right? Everybody had great plans.
Sure.
COVID came and everything probably changed. So So there could be things which probably can derail you, but you need to then come back. Resilience is very, very important, that, things go bad, things go okay. So don't celebrate your success and don't sulk at your failures. I think
At your
that's something
failures.
that I probably take back. Yeah.
Okay, that's a great learning for all of us, regardless of whether it's work or personal situations.
Yes. Yes.
I also noticed that you went from this whole manufacturing base to relatively asset light models, right? So was that a pivot you consciously made, or is that something just sort of happened?
So yeah, so that's the trend in the industry. It was manufacturing, which was kind of very asset heavy. Then came the infrastructure projects, which I did. My second venture, my third venture was in a joint venture with Suzlon between 2015 and 18. We built a 70 megawatt solar power plant. My third venture, PLG Clean Energy Projects, and we sold it back to Suzlon. Again, very asset heavy. The last venture, which we founded in 2018, is a very asset light model. It's a consumer centric model, consumer first model. Here in BlueSmart, we are building a very asset light platform. So this is the
Right.
first time I'm doing a consumer centric business, direct consumer, and absolutely asset light. So it's a new thing for me, a lot of learnings, and absolutely enjoying my time at BlueSmart.
Okay, cool. So since we're at Blue Smart, let's talk a little bit about this. First, why don't you tell us what Blue Smart does, right? Just sort of very simply, what is the model and what is the business behind the model? Where how the
So
monetization?
yes, so BlueSmart is India's first all-electric ride-hailing platform, which is absolutely consumer first. For the consumers, we offer them zero surge pricing, zero ride denials, and obviously these are zero-emission cars. So while we decongest cities and we improve the public transportation for everyone in Delhi, we also ensure that we don't add any pollution. So we're substantially improving the quality of life of every customer and everybody living in the city. Also, we are improving the quality of life of the driver partner. None of the drivers own any assets on our platform. So we provide them
Oh,
electric cars, and the driver uses their ability or their skill set, which is to drive and not to own an asset, which is a huge differentiator between us and our competition. And the consumer gets pricing which is much lower. So on an average, a 10-kilometer ride on our competition costs about $3.50. On average, a 10-kilometer ride on BlueSmart costs $2. So we're substantially cheaper for the customer. So that's a
okay.
huge value prop for the
How is
customer.
that happening? I didn't quite understand how are you sort of able to build in those sort of cost economics?
Yeah. So the operating cost of an electric car is super low, and it's about 20% of a non-electric car. The capex is also not on us; is on the asset owner who leases the car to us. So we have to pay a lease for the car, and the opex is super low. So our TCO, which is the total cost of ownership, is like super low. We are about 25% to 30% cheaper if you compare the TCO between us and a non-electric car. And the TCO advantage going forward in the next 3 4 years will be even lower. So that's how we keep our prices on the lower side.
Okay. So you've sort of kept it asset light because you're leasing the vehicles,
Yes.
and but so that is one component. But just to be clear, with electric vehicles, obviously there is a charge time involved, right? So after, I don't know, I'm presuming 150 kilometers or whatever, if you could share those numbers, you're going to have to charge that vehicle, which means the utilization rate of your vehicle is reduced relative to a regular car, right? So I'm not
Actually
sure if this
not.
is correct,
So
but if you could, yeah.
actually not. So we are a ride-hailing company, and we see that the cars which are on the road on the ride-hailing platforms essentially run for about 12 to 14 hours max. And in a day we have 24 hours. So the 10 hours or 8 hours, the cars do not run on the platform. So
They do
which is
not run.
also,
Okay.
yeah.
Is
So that's also on a competition's platform. Similarly, it takes about 90 minutes to charge a car, which runs about 180 to 200 kilometers. And even if we top up that, we end up spending about 2.5 hours for topping up that. We also today have the largest network of fast charging station any company has in India. BlueSmart has about 160 fast charging stations in Delhi NCR. So we are the largest in India, also in the charging infra space. And our cars are on the road for about 12 hours to 14 hours as demand requires. And we have adequate time for charging our cars. So we do the demand and supply matching based on the demand at that time, and we charge the car overnight. So we don't waste time in the day for charging the car. And there are
and how long
some
is the
slack
charge
time.
time you said?
Yeah, so
The charge time for
it takes about 90 minutes to charge a
90
car.
minutes to get how long a run?
180 kilometers. So those are cars
180.
of 2020. The new cars that we are onboarding in 2021, they have a range of about 250 kilometers on a single charge. So what we're seeing also
Oh,
is this hockey stick curve, technology curve, where the cost of cars are going down and the
right.
range on a single charge is going up. So
Sure.
yeah, so I think a standard car on road by end of 21 will be 300 kilometers on a standard on a single charge.
Wow. Okay. I mean, so this is like the classic semiconductor industry, right? Back in like the
Yes,
80s or
yes.
whenever, like you saw that
And in
whole.
the solar, I mean, exactly in my own background, I can probably give you reference of solar, right? So solar was about 18 crores a megawatt back in 2008 when we started. Today it's about 2 crores a megawatt. It's the cheapest source of energy generation in the world and also in India.
So of course that whole sort of cost structure benefit, and as you evolve and as you sort of scale, you're going to
Yeah.
enjoy this a lot more. I'm going to quickly take this question, Puneet, from Sanjeev Kumar, who says, is it a rented car just like Ola, Uber type? Okay, so since that question come up about the competition, why don't you address that? Just
Absolutely right. So we are building an electric ride-hailing platform, which is the first of its kind in India. I'm sure I can probably give you a relative example. It's like flying Bombay, Delhi, sorry, flying Delhi, New York on Etihad Emirates class business or Air India. Given that the pricing is the same, I'm sure you'll choose Etihad. So I think service side, consumers were lacking a cleaner ride, a safer ride. All our rides are sanitized. On Blue Smart app, you can also pre-order a mask. You can check the body temperature of the driver. You can see the last time of car sanitization. You can pre-order a mask. So there are a lot of things that our competition cannot do because of the business model. So hence we are very, very different in terms of consumer service, in terms of pricing, in terms of the platform, and we are all electric. We don't cancel a single ride. So 10 out of 10 times a Blue Smart will come because we route the car towards the customer. On other platforms which are connecting consumer with the driver or connecting driver with the consumer, they're merely app-only platforms charging a transaction price. They're very different to us. So you have a lot of ride denials on those platforms, and the surge is very high. We don't surge. So there's a
you don't
huge
search.
difference. Yeah, so we have a huge difference in terms of the value prop for the customer.
Okay. Still want to be clear on the cost advantage from the consumer perspective. So
Yeah, so
ballpark,
on an
what would you
average,
say? Yeah,
yeah,
on
so
an
on an
average.
average, a 10-kilometer ride in Delhi costs you about $3.50. On an average, a 10-kilometer ride in Blue Smart costs you about $2.2. So we are relatively about
Wow.
20% cheaper if you take surge into account. And given that surge happens and morning slot and evening slots, we are relatively cheaper because we are at a base price of about 15 rupees a kilometer to 17. And Ola and Uber go up to about 27, 28 rupees a kilometer at those times.
Okay.
And,
Just
and, it-
taking
and
a
it's not in their control because they don't control the supply. So when demand outstrips supply, they have no option. The algorithm kicks in, and the algorithm then calculates that surge, and you end up paying about 3.5 because that's algorithm based. That's not that they are trying to do that. In the
That's
US,
just
that
how
doesn't
the
happen.
system
You
works.
spend a lot of time in the US, Vibha. You would know if you probably order an Uber in New York, the surge will be only 1.2x to 1.3x
Sure.
because the supply is also there.
The
Then.
supply is that high, right? Of
Yes,
course.
yeah, yeah.
But a lot of these companies, Puneet, is obviously mentioned that one of the big hooks is the fact that it's all electric vehicle. But obviously Uber, Ola, they already have this whole electric vehicle thing going for themselves as well. So I have this question here from Bhishma Sharma who says, Ola, etc. already have electric cabs concept. How's Blue Smart idea and concept different from the competitors? So this is, I think, a legitimate and probably something that you've thought about. Like, how are you going to differentiate with these big
So
wigs?
Ola really the good company. They tried their best. They rolled out this pilot project. They themselves call it on their website also. And founders a good friend. So they rolled out a school demonstration project in a city called Nagpur, which probably I don't know how much impact that made. And we are doing that at massive scale in Delhi. We have a largest fleet of electric cars any company has in India. Blue Smart has. We have 410, not 40, 50 like Ola. And we're the largest network of 160 fast charging stations, not 20 like our competition. So we're doing it full stack in a proper model in Delhi and creating a real impact because the AQI of Delhi is 400. AQI of Gurgaon is 600. The AQI of London is 1. London is going all electric because they think pollution is there with AQI of 1. Delhi has
So
a bigger
explain to
problem.
everyone what AQI means, so that it's
That's the air
accessible to
quality
everyone.
index. That's the air quality index. So the air quality index is terrible. And I think we have to, this new decade of 2020, 2030 is this transition from non-electric mobility to electric mobility. Because if we don't do that now, 2030, the AQI will be maybe 1,000 and that city will be unlivable. So it's a city-specific challenge. Mobility is always not a pan-India challenge or a pan-country challenge. It's a city-specific challenge.
Sure.
And yes, globally, a lot of our competition is going electric, but starting with the city. So London is the first city which is going all electric because that's the mandate from the government of London. Mayor of London has announced that every commercial car has to be electric. So Uber, out of all the cities they operate in, is going electric in just one city, that's London. So probably India, and we met the CEO of Uber. He was very clear that India, they will go all electric post 2030. So we have a 10-year headway there.
Okay, and hopefully by that time you will have found your exit, Puneet. Going to read a compliment from Bhishma Sharma who says, thanks, Puneet. You and your team are doing a great job. Never let the spark die. Kudos. Thank you, Bhishma, for that compliment. Sanjeev Kumar also says, Blue Smart, you have TVC ads, outdoor ads. I've heard about this company for the first time here. Very nice concept. Okay, thank you, Sanjeev, for your compliments. It is indeed a great concept. Puneet, I want to, since he's brought up the advertising aspect, let's talk a little bit about that.
So
How are you
probably
advertising? How are
we
you
actually didn't have to do that. I mean, probably we have been so lucky here. We didn't spend a dime. What happened is that our cars are our marketing tool. So when you order or when you summon an Uber or Ola, a white color car arrives and you probably don't know
Sure,
whose car arrived. But when you summon a Blue Smart branded car, I don't know if you've checked this out on Google,
sure.
it's very similar to the BST bus. You can see a BST bus from a kilometer away, a red color bus is coming to you. Similarly, a Blue Smart car is all around the town, right? So that's the best way of marketing. We are advertising right on our car, and we have been very frugal about our marketing spends. We have one of the best celebrities in India as an investor, but we probably didn't have to use her or for that anybody for that matter. So I think good work and positive work has been the biggest reason that we have scaled without any major marketing costs.
Okay, that's very interesting and very unlike the typical startups because most of the money is going towards initial customer acquisition,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So if
yes.
you're not pumping in money for customer acquisition, what is your customer acquisition strategy? Even the first 50 or 100 people who are ordering, how are you getting to those guys? Because then will they sort of have these taxis wandering around the city, which is great advertising, but what is a essential customer acquisition strategy? How are you getting those guys?
Actually a CAC is hardly anything, right? So because we are in a smaller geography of Delhi and Gurgaon, and because the visibility is so high, the money that we spend to acquire our first customer, we recover that in 45 days, the first 45 days. So I'll give you an example. For example, somebody who used Blue Smart in the first month after becoming a customer spent 500 rupees in the first month. Now in 6 months, they end up spending on an average 2,000 to 2,500 rupees per month. So you've seen
Sure.
maximum, not only we have seen customer retention, we have seen the spend per customer going substantially up by like 500%. So
Sure.
we really don't need to spend on, and once he uses that, he tells 20 other friends and family members that you must use the Blue Smart. This is the first of its kind in India. So one customer brings us 20, and that's been the way we have grown without any
Sure.
marketing spend.
Okay, so no marketing spend so far.
Yeah. Which is
Okay.
nil. I mean, we spend hardly anything, a lakh or two, given the fact that we raised about almost $12 million, but we spend nothing at all, not even a fraction of on marketing.
Okay, so all right, let me pick up some comments and questions. There's more things coming up here. All right, so Sanjeev Kumar, someone was asking about whether this is an app on Play Store or Apple Store, etc. So you want to just tell people how they can access your service for now?
Probably it'll be prudent to mention, but I didn't mention, Blue Smart has an app rating of 4.9 out of 5.
Oh wow.
We have been
Okay.
downloaded 125,000 times. We have done about 7 million clean kilometers. And currently we enjoy the highest rated app service in the whole world in the ride hailing space. 4.9 is kind of unheard of. Our competition is at 3.7. Uber globally is at 4 because of US, 80% of all the rides in the US. But we are at 4.9 over 14 months, over 7 million zero emission kilometers. So you can download the Blue Smart app. You can use it for a short ride. You can take the rental service, which is you can book the car for a day.
And the
Consumers
the
book
app is available on sort of Apple,
on
Android,
iOS, and
all.
yeah, so our app store rating is 4.9. It was 5 for a lot of period, for long period. And on Android, it was also 5 for long period. Now it's
Okay.
4.9. Both the apps are 4.9 right now. And you can book us for a short ride or for rentals also.
Okay, great.
Actually,
Now,
but one of the beauties that another difference is that we also have a pre-book service. So on a Monday we are sold out for the entire week. So people already book us for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we are kind of sold out for the entire week.
wow. Okay, that's amazing. Taking another question here, is there a franchise available to buy? Are you doing the franchise model for Blue Smart already?
Yes and no. So I think what our institutional investors who are kind of leading our A and B rounds are telling us to probably do that ourselves in the five mega cities of India. So our target
Hmm.
market is about 300 million people. Then I think for tier two, tier three cities will be open for conversations. We already are having some, but probably not in short term and mid term.
Okay, great. I hope that answered your question. Bhishma, you're asking about the intercity ride while the car is charging, etc. We've already addressed that. So if you could just, this conversation is going to be on the Reach IV Instagram page as well as I'll be sharing it as a story. So if you don't mind, Bhishma, I'm going to move on. Puneet, there's a compliment for you from Earth Hopper who says, our Sydenham boy was always the most enthusiastic. Earth Hopper, whoever you are, thank you for that. All right. So, Puneet, so many other aspects I want to touch about. And since you brought up, investments and the fundraising aspect, let's just dig a little bit deeper into that. So, at what point did you realize, you needed to go out and raise money? And from whatever's publicly known, how much money have you raised so far? How did this whole Deepika Padukone thing happen completely? Like, when you sent me that WhatsApp message, I was like, Puneet is on it again. So just walk us through the whole investment journey, the fundraising process.
So I must say that my past ventures fundraising was far easier because solar was a very clear business. It was an annuity-driven business, and you know when you invest and when you can exit. Obviously, given our competition is so huge and well funded, raising money for Blue Smart was obviously very tough and very challenging. But we raised a small seed round of $3 million in September last year, where we also saw investment from Deepika Padukone. She's the first woman in India to back a ride-hailing platform because it's ultimately taxi. And why she invested was the safety that we have for women, right? So our cars can be tracked, even if the phone of the mobile phone of the driver dies or the battery gets over. From the consumer side, even if that battery gets over, we still track the car. And the tracking is done by Blue Smart, by the Delhi police, and also by the transportation department in Delhi. And it's a very seamless tracking, and that allows anybody traveling inside to be safe. We also have panic buttons, which are mandatory by the Delhi High Court and also by the Supreme Court. Although Ola and Uber don't have them, we have 4 panic buttons inside for the consumer, for the customer, and also for the driver. So these were a few of the things that really excited her. Because the step that we took for women, for women's safety. Also
Okay.
happy to share that 48% of all our customers are women,
Women.
and
Oh, wow. Okay.
for our competition is at 17%. So out of 100 rides, 17 are women for our competition. Out of 100 rides, 48 are women for Blue Smart. So that was something that
Attracted
number was
her.
very attracted her,
Hmm.
and then yeah, she made the investment.
Okay. So that's
And
how
so we raised that seed round, and during
so
COVID,
she was part of the seed round, you're saying.
yeah. So she was a
Okay.
part
And
of the seed
at
round.
what point did you decide that at what point did you raise the seed round?
So seed round was raised last year in September at a very early stage. We raised seed round at a $10 million valuation in September last year. Now we just completed a $8 million pre-series round, which is a convertible round. We don't know the valuation of our company as of now. It's maybe around 240 crores. So we raised a convertible round. So investors investing in this round will get a discount of 25% over Series A round. And we're raising, while I'm talking to you now, I probably spent the entire day fundraising for Series A round. We are in the middle of that. We're raising a $15 million Series A round, which we have to raise by March for further growth. Um, yeah, so
Okay.
that's where we are.
Okay. And where's the money going, Puneet? What are you doing with this sort of money? If it's
So
not going
money is
towards
obviously,
marketing.
yeah. So it's going for a team. We started with a team of 8 people. Now we are about 108 in our team, 110 people now. 45 people tech team. We have the best technology team. The entire layer is super solid. CTO, CEO, and they all are from IIT Roorkee and from IIM Ahmedabad. So super solid team. Also for building our supply stack. So every time we bring on board cars, we need to give some deposits for the asset owners and for charging infra. A major amount of money is going for building parking facilities and for charging and for infra. So that's where the entire spend is going. And then obviously we're keeping a lot of money for marketing. Eventually, we're keeping a lot of money saying that maybe next year we will do some big marketing campaigns, at a later time. So we're keeping some money there. But yes, we've been very frugal about. So the money that we have raised right now will also see us through for the next 16 months. But the new
Okay.
money will help us even grow faster. So
Okay. So whatever money you have, you still have a sort of
yes, so we
16
have a
month
clear runway.
headway.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes, 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 yes.
Okay. So at least for 16 months, you're quite sorted, and then by then you would have raised your next round.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So since you've been talking about the team and it was one of your, key takeaways from your earlier ventures, what have you done differently this time? You've obviously hired more people, so the entire onus is not on you. But what do you look for? As you're building this team, what do you look for when you sort of find, because it's a technology business, right, ultimately, and there's so many CTOs floating around. What did you look for? And CTOs obviously they're so premium. Like you hire him, and the next week he will get poached. So what did you look for,
Actually
and
not.
what's
So,
your retention?
yes, our CTO doesn't have any mobility experience, but yes, he has business experience. He is from IIM Ahmedabad, and he's also has engineering experience. He's from IT Roorkee. So it was an amazing blend of a CTO has gone to IIM Ahmedabad. He knows business, so he knows that we have to
That's
be
unique.
profitable.
Wow.
We have to be
Hmm.
profitable, and he's been an entrepreneur in the past also, and obviously the commitment, that's very very important. So people bring different skill sets, and sometimes you find people, and sometimes people from that industry never can disrupt that industry. So you probably get people from different industries which can probably think out of the box. So people from that particular industry will never ever be thinking out of the box. So that's very important. And also, good team and good relationship is very very important. So probably putting all that together is how we built our current team.
Okay. And what sort of attrition are you seeing at this stage? It's still very early days for you, but are you seeing any attrition already?
No, so the people, as I said, we started from 8 and now we have gone to 100 plus. So it's the same people and more that are being added. In COVID time, that was really sad to see some of the big, well-funded players laying off hundreds of people. So we saw a
Yeah.
lot of layoffs from our competition side. We felt bad about it. We interviewed some of them, we hired some of them, and we learned a lot also from them, because when you're fired, you probably open up more and you share more. So that was great learnings, and we took some very good talent in this period, in the last few months, last few quarters.
Okay. And since you've touched upon, the pandemic, just want to understand, how did you deal with like this, slack period? I know, and maybe there was an official lockdown. So for months, you weren't officially allowed to go out. And even
Yes.
now, obviously, none of us are at our regular activity level, right? So my Uber usage, has drastically gone down. How did you guys deal with a slump of like absolutely no business to now still being in semi-slack phase? How are you as a company dealing with this?
So actually, for us, it was awesome. So pre-COVID, we were doing about 1,000 rides a day. When COVID happened, came down to zero, so absolutely zero earnings, and now we are about 1.5x. So we're doing about 1,500 trips a day. So we have bounced back, and our numbers are much better than they were pre-COVID, and also growing 50% month on month. So I think we are, no complaints, because we could focus that period. Essentially, we use that period to building our tech stack. We made the best technology, which is why we have a rating of 4.9, and also we use that period for fundraising. And now when that the markets have opened up, we are doing, we are doubling down on the numbers that we were doing earlier. So growing 50% month on month, and I think we should be touching about 3,000 trips per day by Feb of next year, which is three times the number that was last year. Last year Feb 20 versus Feb 21.
Okay, that's good to hear. Seems like you were able to circumvent the pandemic, and I mean, obviously, because you're still early stage business, you have a low base effect to your,
Yes,
doubling and tripling
yes,
for right now. But
yes.
hopefully, the pandemic is behind us, and
Yes.
you will see,
And also, this new era is all about, right, for safety and sanitization. So we laid a lot of emphasis on safety. So on a Blue Smart app, that's what I was trying to tell you, that if you open the app, you can see the body temperature of the driver. I mean, no app shows you. You can see the last time of car sanitization,
sure.
and we sanitize the car after every single ride. So these are unheard of. You can order a mask. I mean, which app in the world allows you? If you go on the Blue Smart app, you can pre-order a mask, and when the car comes, you can get a sealed mask
Sure.
which you can wear. So these were some of
Okay, so
good tech
so
innovations
you've
from our
you've
side.
sort of really tried to enhance the customer experience,
Yeah.
and sort of put safety first for the customers, which is obviously top of everyone's mind. And of course, because of the lack of public transportation, because you don't really want to be in a crowded space. If I really have to go somewhere, I'm not going to drive. My next best option is going to be to call a taxi.
Yeah.
So that also works in your favor. Okay, here's a quick question from Bhishma again, who says, "What is your advice for young entrepreneurs? I am a petroleum engineer and working on ideas in the area of green energy." Okay, any
Actually,
any idea?
actually, my co-founder is also a petroleum engineer. So
Oh, he is.
he,
Okay, very
yeah,
interesting.
he's
Okay,
from University of Petroleum. Entrepreneur, go out, chase your dreams. and trying to build stuff for yourself and also for society. If you can create an impact, it's awesome. So create profitable businesses and also create something for an impact for the society. So it has to be both the ways.
Okay, make money while doing good. I
Yes.
like that advice, and that's something you actually have abided by, Puneet. So I like the fact that you practice what you preach. Let's take some comments here. Saying Sanjeev Kumar says, Puneet, sir, all the best for you and your team. Okay. Sabahat Hurzuk, sounds superb and very well thought through. Thank you, Sabahat. Kothari Sanjay, would love to invest in your company, bro. Okay, that's good to hear, Kothari Sanjay. If you would like to invest in Blue Smart, just send me a DM and I will connect you to Puneet, and you guys can take it from there directly. Sanjeev Kumar says waiting for 2021. Absolutely. All right, let's take this question from Purvi Sultania, who says, what are your expansion plans within India? Would love to see this in Bangalore soon. Absolutely. Puneet, tell us the roadmap for the different cities and when
Yes.
are we going to see you in your
So as
metros and
much
your
as much as we would like to, currently the focus is absolutely clear. We are very laser focused. We are actually in the largest transportation market in India. The population of Delhi NCR is 46 million. If you add Faridabad, Ghaziabad, Noida, Greater Noida, and Gurgaon, and which is equivalent to the population of Spain as a country. So it's huge. And 14-15% of the entire revenue from transportation comes from that cluster. So I think in short term, mid term, we are very focused on the Delhi market. The next step will be Bombay somewhere end of 21. After we could raise some more money post a B round, I think then we go deep dive in new cities like Hyderabad and Bangalore. But I think the short term, mid term is very clear that become a leader in that largest market in India.
okay, and then sort of take it from there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You were talking a little bit about your co-founder, and I'd love to hear about, your co-founder. What's the story? Behind every great company, there's always the story of how the co-founders met. Was it at a bar? Was it through some Harvard alumni network thing? Like, how did you meet him? And how did you know that this was a match, sort of made in heaven? How did you know it's going to work? What were both of
So
you thinking of?
actually, we are friends for 10 years, and we worked for 10 years together. So my second venture, which was my solar power plant, it was built, designed, engineered by Gensol, and Anmol is the founder of Gensol, which is India's largest solar advisory company. So we met in 2010. In 2011, he built my solar asset, and 2012-13, he helped me sell it, and then we stayed in touch. And my last venture, which was in a joint venture with Suzlon, he was again involved in building and designing and playing the entire part there. So we've been knowing each other, and actually it was Suzlon where we were brainstorming on my idea, his idea. He wanted to build the largest charging infra platform. I was saying that mobility is very important, and we got connected, and we discussed that over a few months in 2018, and then we started together. So we knew each other for last 10 years, and great friendship. He was a vendor to me, I was his client, and then we started off in 2018 together.
Oh, okay. Wow. So that always helps. You had the sort of comfort, this
Yes.
experience, the
Yeah.
highs, the lows, all of that shared experience.
Yes.
And of course, complementary skill set, right? You're saying he was the guy who was the engineer who sort of helped build the businesses from a technical perspective. And then, of course, you have the finance expertise, the communication expertise. Is that the complementarity that you guys are sharing?
Absolutely. So Anmol is super laser focused. He's an army man. His father was a very
Oh.
senior person in the army. So his operations, all through operations, and not so much into fundraising or other aspects. So it was a good match. Very focused skill set of both the founders bringing the skill set that they had over years. Since Anmol probably played a very important role in accelerating the adoption of clean energy in India. He probably built many plants for clients like me and several others. So from the engineering side. So that's what he does also at BlueSmart, operations and ensuring that the demand supply are matched. And probably my role more is to build a company, bring on more people which are like-minded, raise the money, bring on investors, do alliances, partnerships. We have got some good partnerships with Make My Trip. We are in talks with some other large players in the hospitality space for good partnerships. So that's what most of my time goes into.
Okay, terrific. Sounds like a very well balanced approach. There's a comment here from Hira Kagzi who says, Puneet, your very unique project. Your cabs are very different from others. They catches the eye from far. I was fascinated seeing it. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that compliment for Blue Smart. Puneet, also want to touch a little bit upon, since you mentioned that, you wanted to build the fleet and Anmol was more focused on the infra, so where do you guys see this balance of play, right? Is the money going to go in behind, sort of building the fleet and the whole customer acquisition strategy? Because again, with infrastructure, you're going back down the whole, asset heavy modeling. Is the infrastructure going to be built by other companies now where, there will be a dispersion in that there are only pure infra play companies and then there are fleet services like yours. So, tell us, what is this landscape looking like? Where is this balance between infra and asset light going to play out?
So actually, we don't own any of the charging stations again. So it's absolutely asset light. We
Okay.
create the entire model where we plug in mobility, real estate, energy, and charging infra. So we partner with other charging infra companies who set up dedicated charging infrastructure for BlueSmart at our hubs. It's like Indian Oil setting up dedicated petrol station for aeroplanes at the airport, and
Okay.
airlines don't need to invest in those petrol pumps. Those are exclusively for those airlines, and those are only for those planes. Similarly, we don't invest in for charging stations. We partner with other large players in the real estate space. We use their real estate. Our cars are parked there. Somebody else puts up the charging station. We underwrite the demand. So we are
Nice.
generating demand from the customer side and also from the we are taking demand from the supply side of charging infra. But we don't invest in
You
any of
don't
those.
invest. Okay. So it
But
is purely asset.
these are depreciating assets, and we don't want to own depreciating assets.
Okay, all right. So this time you've stuck very clear cut with a
Yeah.
supremely asset light model. Okay,
Yes.
that's
Correct.
interesting. And you want to stay that way, right? You don't you
Right.
see yourself
Yes.
in
So
terms of
we see ourselves becoming the Indian Oil of electric in terms of being the largest operator of charging stations. We ourselves see ourselves becoming, the Via Rideshare, which is the third company. A lot of people don't know Via. Under the nose, eyes, ears of Lyft and Uber, they are also a unicorn. They
okay.
are worth $3.5 billion. They do electric shuttles in New York. So we are building the Via Rideshare of India, all electric.
Okay. Puneet, I also just want to, get your, so we've understood, the whole journey so far. We've understood where you're at right now. Tell us a bit about, give us a sort of sneak peek into, I don't want to go 10 years because 10 years in a technology business is so far out that no one knows. Maybe we just stick to like the very immediate, short term, which for technology is still the long term. What's the 1 year, 2 year perspective? Where are you seeing your competitive landscape, the consumer mindset, etc. in the next 1 to 2 years? Where are we going from here to the next 2 years?
I think we had a very fascinating time right now. The consumer today is not a patron of a brand. The consumer today is not a patron of BlueSmart or Ola or Uber. The consumer today of 2020 and going forward in 2030 is a patron of good service. And that has been the biggest challenge in India, that the service quality has been super low. See, it's very good to use an Uber in New York, and probably I will use it 10 times out of 10 when I'm in New York. But in India, the plight of drivers are really bad. The driver doesn't get time to have a bath. I don't know how will he keep his car clean. And that's the situation in India. It's very challenging because people in the US who come from the richest section of society, they own cars. People in India from the weakest section of society own cars. And the asset ownership in India is very low. And not everybody owns a car. So the asset ownership.
Sorry, so you're saying that in India, though, it's
Yeah,
the wealthy that own
yeah,
cars, and in the
yes,
West, you're
yes.
probably not that wealthy, but
Yeah, it's still.
but you
Uh,
still might own a car.
Yeah, so
Okay.
cars are a sunk cost in the US. Here, you need to create an asset and then churn and earn from it. So we see that the next 10 years, people not buying cars, people taking the public transportation mode and looking the best, and they want value for money. So I think we have a big role to play in providing quality service to the consumer, and probably we see that for the next half a decade for sure. And also the market opportunity and size, right? So next 10 years is going to be great for India. India is going to see real transition in good public transportation and good models like BlueSmart. Maybe we are at the beginning right now. We have a lot of surface to scratch, but I think the next 10 years is going to see a lot of good public transportation companies come up in India. Because demand for mobility is going 7x in the next 10 years in India.
Okay. So you're seeing the demand going up.
Yeah.
You're seeing the overall landscape evolving. The customer remains who he was 500 years ago, someone in search of high quality service. And I'm
Actually,
assuming
there's
that's
a little bit of difference here. The customer today is more planned and people were just getting out. Then now, with the amount of time we spend on other things, we have well-planned days. People are more planned now than ever. So I think the mindset has changed. The consumer style also has changed. Preferences have changed. Also, they want more for what they spend. So that is where I think we have a big role to play.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Puneet, any final words of advice for, like people who want to become entrepreneurs? I know you'd already talked about your failures and learnings, early on, but just having had the sort of ride that you've had, if else was going to be driving their own vehicle now, as they hit the accelerator and said, "Okay, I'm going to go," what advice would you give them?
I think, and something probably that goes along with yours. So I think it's very important to know your subject well and study a lot. I think education plays a very important role, given that you run India's best platform for sending students now overseas. It's very important to know your subject well. So I probably would like to know, the role that Reach Ivy has played to sending so many aspirational students overseas and to the colleges of their choice. I think it's very important to know your subject well and do thorough
Sure.
research before you get into anything, and give your time and spend a lot of money there, but know the subject well before you deep dive.
Okay, so domain
But
expertise. I
kudos to
think
you. But kudos to you for really kind of sending so many Indian students to the colleges that they always wanted to go. I think Reach Ivy has played a very important part in.
Puneet, that's very kind of you. But I mean, I think you already know this. But every time we talk, and Puneet and I meet actually quite frequently. There's not one meeting or coffee I've had with Puneet where I haven't gone back richer, at least in terms of knowledge. I did not yet invest in Blue Smart, but that's a conversation for us to have separately. But you leave me enriched every time we connect, Puneet. So I don't know if I've voiced it to you, but I thought on a public platform I would make sure to voice it to you. You might be younger than me in years, but definitely in terms of experience, and the amount of passion you have. I mean, I have seen you and sort of seen how you've driven yourself, and I've seen your journey. I mean, I don't know if anyone else has documented your life the way I've literally seen you at so many different phases of your life, and it's been extremely inspirational. And I was specifically excited to have you on the show because I knew you would leave us with the nuggets you've left us with. And I can see that in the compliments. Bhishma says, looking forward to investing in Blue Smarts when you will launch your IPO in the stock market. That's most definitely going to happen. Bhishma, thank you for that optimism. Sanjeev
Thank you.
Kumar says, Vibha ma'am, this was the best video session with Puneet sir. Today we learned of a new concept. Okay, great. Thank you for that compliment. Prem Garodia, great session. Kothari Sunday says, Vibha, let's close the investment deal together. All right. So, if I don't know about your entire day of pitching to companies, but in the last 60 minutes, you've definitely got two people excited. Abel says, thank you, Vibha and Puneet. Great insights. All right. Thank you, Abel. All right. Thank you all for watching. And Puneet, thank you
Thank
for
you.
being transparent and candid as always, because it's always helpful to have someone like you on the show. All right, Puneet sir, can you be the next Mukesh Ambani? Thank you. Have a nice day. Okay, sure.
Okay.
All right, Sanjeev, thank you. Kesha, very
I think he was the one who
informative
launched your book, and he was the one who launched your book with his good wishes on the cover page. But
on the cover,
awesome,
yes.
yeah,
But the next
awesome. I
book
mean,
will probably have Puneet Goyal's
no,
endorsement,
no,
and
no, no, no,
that would
no.
be great. Thank you, amazing session. Sabha says, amazing session as always, Vibha. Puneet, thank you for sharing your insights. Really looking forward to availing Blue Smart services soon. Puneet, what has gone wrong in the session is now everyone in Bombay, Bangalore, and the rest of the country wants to use the services. So,
So
it,
when you are in Delhi next, please use Blue Smart.
okay, we will remember that for
Yeah.
Delhi. But the one takeaway from you is you have lots of eager and hungry customers waiting. So let's get that roadmap moving soon. Kothari Sanjay, awesome, all the best, bro. Okay, all right,
Thank
guys,
you.
I'm going to let Puneet
Thank you.
go. Thank you, Puneet, and look forward to connecting with you offline. Thank you
Sure.
so much.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. All right,
Bye.
guys, brings us to the end of the show, episode 35. Learned so much about the electric vehicle space. My mind is buzzing with all the nuggets Puneet shared about how he built teams, how he thought about the customer, how he's moved from his manufacturing base to asset light businesses, how he failed and he failed again, and then he sort of rose to his ride of success. Amazing. And stay tuned, guys, for next week's episode 36 of House of Experts. As always, if you have a sector or a guest that you want me to bring on, and Sanjeev, I cannot bring Mukesh Ambani on the show, but anyone else within my reach, I would be happy to. So have a great evening, guys, and look forward to connecting with you guys online very soon. Have a good